everyone, and welcome to another episode of Toon Talk with me, Eisha. Lots of Newcastle updates to discuss this week, so I'm splitting the episode in two. Today I'm covering all the post-match chat after our 2-0 win at West Ham and that victory on Tuesday night against Blackburn too. And tomorrow's upload will feature transfer talk and a preview ahead of the Brighton game. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. I really do enjoy reading all your thoughts in the comments section, so do keep them coming. Joining me today is Sharkey from Toon Army TV. Thanks so much for joining me, Sharkey. How are you?
Yes, not too bad, thanks Eisha. Thanks very much for having me on.
You're very welcome. I'm so excited because it's been another busy week for Newcastle updates. We have so much to cover, so I think we should jump straight in with some post-match chat from our first Premier League game against West Ham. So I think it was the best result we could have hoped for. I think getting Wilson and Hendrick on the score sheet, they just demonstrated that they're here to just make an immediate impact, you know? Like they spoke well to media when they were signed, and sometimes you think, okay, that's all well and good, the intent is there, but what can they deliver on the pitch? And I felt like they delivered, you know? I remember waking up on Sunday morning and I was positive. I was feeling really good, and I haven't felt this positive at the start of the Premier League season in a really, really long time. It was like a positive week of signings, and then to start with a win was like the cherry on top. What do you think about the performance and the result?
I wouldn't say it was the perfect performance. I wouldn't say it was but it was definitely the perfect result, because if you're Steve Bruce, you know, looking at the game, you want to demand more. Now, going into it against West Ham, with the signings of Wilson, Fraser, Hendrick, Lewis and Mark Gillespie, I was very confident because we addressed the key areas where we needed to. Now, West Ham at the time, and still are, in massive trouble. You know, they didn't strengthen their side. There was a lot of doom and gloom down at the London Stadium, and I felt really confident, you know, going into the first game of the season. If you'd said that a week before the game, I would have said no. We maybe would have got a draw, or we would have got beat. But yeah, like, the mood was just lifted just by the board reacting to the pre-season defeats to Middlesbrough 5-1 and the Stoke defeat. And I was very, very upset after the Stoke game, because you just felt like there was no progression. And if we didn't do anything, we didn't react, then it was going to be a season of struggle. But you bring those signings in, you could look forward. And going into the West Ham game, like, was started off very, very well. Like, you look at the team lineup, there was a couple of options that were to Steve Bruce. I was quite surprised that Carroll started. I thought it would have been maybe like Joelinton at the time. I would have put him on the left wing, you know, change it up a little bit. And then you see Jeff Hendrick start. I thought it would have been Miggy in the number 10, but he did explain at the end why that wasn't to be. But going into the game, you know, we're pretty much got on top of West Ham. We were starting to pass the ball around really well. You know, Hendrick was very positive going forward. He was linking up very nicely with Wilson. Jamal Lewis, you know, from left back, you know, getting forward, bringing Wilson and ASM into the match. And like, we were putting West Ham under so much pressure, and we were actually getting shots off at goal. And that's unlike us away from home. And I know we've got a very good record at the London Stadium, but it's a new season. And I think going into half-time, 0-0, I was still optimistic going into the second half that we'll get more goals, but I was just very annoyed that we didn't get maybe 2 or 3 goals to the good going into half time, because we had so many chances. West Ham, you know, they had a couple of shots, you know, off the crossbar, but they didn't really offer too much in the game. But second half, it was just, you know, go again, and we finally, you know, we knocked on the door and we broke it down, and we got that first goal by Callum Wilson. You know, when Hendrick with that assist as well. You know, the ball coming from Mankio, Hendrick does well to direct the header to Wilson. He prods home. Yes, there was talk of it was a high foot, but let's be honest, I think the keeper West Ham, Fabianski, he should have got there a lot quicker, in my opinion. But he's got to be in the right place at the right time, and that's why we've signed Callum Wilson, to put the ball in the back of the net. He scores, and then we just continue to play. And then Jeff Hendrick, you know, what a goal. You know, what an absolute rasper into the top left-hand corner. It was hard work by Miggy. He'd only been on for a few minutes. He just picked out Hendrick, squared it across, and he puts it in, and 2-0. But if there's any negatives from that game, I think we should have scored more goals for me. And we're still a little bit open at the back, but we did keep a clean sheet, so that's a positive. But yeah, like, it was just an all-round good performance. You know, we got 2 debut goals, and it just seems like I know it's West Ham, but we're starting to click very, very quickly.
Yeah, agreed. I think that was the most pleasantly surprising thing for me, making additions to a squad, not playing a Premier League game. Even like some of our signings they haven't had a pre-season with us. They've barely had any training leading up to that opening game. Jamal Lewis was signed on Tuesday or something, passed that fitness test, came back from national duty, passed the medical test, and was ready to play. And I was thinking, hold on a minute, has he even met the whole, actually, I know he's met the whole squad because I saw their initiation night, which was hilarious. I felt so bad for Ryan Fraser singing away with his little spoon microphone. But like I said, I was pleasantly surprised because they looked cohesive. It looked as if they'd been playing together for months. And that's the best thing you can ask for with new signings, because we've seen in the past new signings come along and for some reason they might be, making fireworks in a different league or a different country, but they're joining us, and that gelling process, it takes time. But yeah, touch wood, we've gelled really cohesively, and I'm excited about that. So now let's talk about Tuesday night. So our 1-0 victory against Blackburn Rovers, it's booked our place in the Carabao Cup third round. So firstly, let's talk about the positives of that game. So Ryan Fraser obviously scored the winner. I personally had my doubts about his fitness. He hasn't played a Premier League game since March, and that did concern me. No matter how formidable he was in previous seasons, it was just sort of that big concern for me. But to get he got 57 minutes, I guess, in the tank and score the winner. Brilliant assist from Almiron. He looked on top form as well. I was happy with that. In addition, Mark Gillespie, he made his full debut. He made 2 crucial saves, like really, really impressive saves. A clean sheet, man of the match. I mean, Dubravka obviously is injured. Now, in the pre-season, we've seen Carl Darlow. We have seen a bit of Gillespie. Based on Tuesday night, who do you think should fill those big boots? Gillespie or Darlow?
I would like to say Mark Gillespie because he's a Geordie. He understands the city. He understands the fan base. It's a shame that he didn't have the fans behind him for his full debut. But I thought he played fantastically well. I thought he pulled off some fantastic saves. I think one of them was from Amaury Bell of Blackburn. He had to dive and save one, and one came off his leg. On another day, let's be honest with you, it wasn't our best game. Blackburn could have won that. They should easily went through. If they maybe started Alma Armstrong in the first half, they maybe would have killed the game off. We didn't really look 100%, but I can understand because, we're not exactly playing a full-strength side. We're making a lot of changes, and the games are coming thick and fast. You're playing a lot of fringe players. You're playing players like Atsu, who haven't really got a future at the football club, but they need, that game time to be sold on or sent out on loan. But in terms of what you're saying, yeah, I would definitely go Mark Gillespie over Carl Darlow, but because Carl Darlow's number 2 and because Dubravka's injured at this moment in time, it's obviously Darlow for the Premier League games, so he'll set out the cup games and that'll be Mark Gillespie. But yeah, I see where you're coming from. I think Darlow for me is very shaky, and he was throughout pre-season. I was quite surprised that he got a 5-year contract, in my opinion. I was thinking he's out the door, he's going to go to a championship club, and I'm still baffled now because once Dubravka gets back, where does he fit? Like, where's he going to get a game? And then you've got obviously Gillespie on a big contract. You've got Woodman on a massive contract, but he's out with Swansea. You've got Dan Langley, who I believe will be 4th choice. So it's a bit strange. But, in the Blackburn game itself, I had expectations that we were going to go through, but it wasn't going to be easy. Blackburn, they come up with a game plan, and they certainly did. They came up to try and spoil the party. But yeah, like good goal by Fraser, because that was the only clear chance that we had in the match. We didn't really do very much in the game. And Fraser showed his quality despite not being match fit, just to peel off the defence. And you have to give Miggy credit for picking him out and using that intelligence and the intelligence of Ryan Fraser to get that, to make that run and to obviously to beat the keeper. He got a touch, but it went in the back of the net. But despite Miggy not playing a full 90 minutes against West Ham and actually playing quite a bit of the Blackburn game, he's got now 2 assists, for the new season. The setup for Hendrick's goal and the one against Blackburn the other day, and that can only do his world of good for the Brighton game coming up. And like I say, it wasn't the best performance, but I've seen the Toon in the past have good games where we've completely dominated a side, whether it be in the Premier League or a cup game, and we've been beat. But I'd rather see it the other side where, we didn't play well, but get through. Sometimes you've got to just defend and play ugly and win, and it's good to see that we're through now to what is the third round against Morecambe with a chance of getting into round 4.
Yeah, no, totally agreed. And you've touched upon this, so I'm moving on to the negatives. Now, it was a victory, but we weren't the better side. We definitely weren't. Blackburn showed greater creativity, intent, and we were second best in terms of possession. Yeah, it's a win, but these things we do need to, discuss as well. Joelinton. Now, I can't talk about the negatives without bringing up Joelinton, because once again, a poor display. He had one touch in the box and it wasn't even in the box. He had one touch and he was nowhere to be seen in the box. So what are your thoughts on Joelinton?
In my opinion, I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's really a Premier League player. I don't care if a player costs 40 million quid, 90 million quid, 150 million quid, 200 million quid. But if you can't perform in a number 9 shirt, in the most iconic shirt at the club, and if you can't put yourself about in the box, if you can't, be that focal point, then for me, if you can't adapt against a championship club, there's your problem. He's struggling in the Premier League. I mean, what, did he get 4 goals last season? He got a couple, in the Premier League and a few in the Cups. That's not good enough, for a Premier League striker. And for me, he's just not got the pace. He hasn't really got the intelligence to, make himself that focal point, to make himself that presence. And I feel sorry for those around him, like ASM and Mickey, who are trying to make things happen. They're trying to maybe, go a bit more and try and... Well, they've got to go a bit more. They've got to try and do a bit more than what they would usually do. They've got to work that 10 times harder, because you look at someone like Joelinton, like you say, he's nowhere to be seen. Half the time when you're watching him, he feels like he's talking to Steve Bruce in the technical area because he's never there. And with him not having much pace, it's like, what the heck are we paid for? Like, you could try playing him on the left-hand side, but I think, for me, I've always said give him until January, see what he can do. If not, we've got to get him off to a championship club. If he can't do it for a championship club, after January, then that's your point. That's my point proven anyway. Yes, it's easy to criticise him because he's the record signing, but listen, he's been paid to score goals. He's paid to do the business, and if you can't do that against a championship club, and by the way, they're a mid-table championship club, then there you go. Do you know what I mean? Like, where do you play him? You try playing him up front, you can't do it. You try playing him on the left, you can't do it. You try tinkering around with a formation, you can't do it. And yeah, you mentioned how he got the ball in a good area. There was a time in the game where he got the ball. All he had to do was either square it across to Jacob Murphy and it could have been 2-0. But it was like a feeble shot at the keeper. And let's be honest, you could have put no keeper in there and it still wouldn't have crossed the line. It was that feeble. Yeah,
no, I absolutely agree with you on that one. I think initially, you know what, I was thinking he lost a lot of time in pre-season. He went AWOL. I couldn't even figure out, is he isolating? Is he in Brazil? Where is he? But he lost a lot of time with our pre-season, training. He did need minutes, but he looked well out his depth, and this is in a Blackburn game. I mean, a cup tie against Blackburn would have been a big opportunity for him, to get stuck in again. The thing is, last season, we didn't have attacking options. We were forced to be overly reliant on him, and now, over a year on, he's still underperforming, yet some options are coming through the door. I just think his future with us, it looks really bleak. And I said this last week, £40 million for a non-Premier League proven striker, compared to the business we've done so far on this transfer window, it's mind-blowing, He's not Premier League proven. And
Can I just mention about Joelinton as well? Like, we've obviously paid 40 million quid for him, but the scouts haven't done their research, because where he's been in Hoffenheim, he hasn't really scored double figures. He came with a reputation of not really scoring enough goals, and I don't think he was really played as a striker. When he was at Hoffenheim, he was more played on the left. Now, obviously, he's coming into a league in the Premier League where, yes, it's tough, but you've got to try and adapt very, very quickly, especially if you're playing for Newcastle United. Now, I look at the stats of Joelinton, and they're just on the floor. Like, there's just no confidence there, and I believe he's obviously got to play games because they've got to try and get that sell-on value. I know that people say he hasn't got a sell-on value, but I'm sure that there is something in his contract where he's got to play, and they've got to try and do something with him, because this moment in time, we're not getting 40 million quid back for him. That's a definite no-no. We'll be lucky if we get 10 million at this rate. Yeah. But with Joelinton, like, I just don't think he's really suited for this football club, if I'm being brutally honest. And I could live to regret that. He might do well maybe a few months down the line, but where is where is the confidence of Joelinton that he's actually going to start putting the ball in the back of the net? You know, he had a big chance, as you said, against Blackburn. If you can't do it against a championship side where you're going to get chances, then who can you do it against? Do you know what I mean? Like, we're bringing Callum Wilson, and this is what I like about this transfer window. We bring in players with Premier League experience. So you're bringing Callum Wilson, who he's known for, scoring double figures. He's known for, if he's fit, he could potentially get 20 plus. He's not really stated how many goals he's going to score, but for me, he'd be my number 9. I was disappointed that Joelinton got given the number 9 shirt. I don't care how much he costs. I would have given it to Wilson. If not, you rest it for a season and see what Wilson can do. You know, you bring in Ryan Fraser, who can link up very well with Callum Wilson. That's a good link up which you want for Premier League level and their experience at that level. Jamal Lewis at left back. Yes, he's had 1 year's worth of Premier League experience, but he's been in the English game long enough to know the demands of, you know, what it's going to be. And you looked at Wilson against West Ham. He got that goal because he was at the right place at the right time. You would never have seen that from Joelinton. But what I will say for Joelinton, because he doesn't do that, Wilson is starting to capitalise on that in matches, and that's why, you know, he starts matches. And you can see the difference already, that because Joelinton hasn't got the understanding of the speed of the game, Wilson understands. And if we just continue the season with Joelinton, I do want to see the Ep4 season, but because we've got Wilson, maybe he can start learning. Do you know what it is? I wouldn't actually start Joelinton in most games. He's got to learn off the bench. He's got to learn the speed of the game. He's got to learn how we play Steve Bruce's formation, how Wilson puts himself about, and how he links up very well with ASM and Lewis. That was scary to think that that's clicked straight away. Whereas with Joelinton, if you started Joelinton with maybe Jamal Lewis in ASM, it could have been a different story. So you want the lad to do well, but you can't say it, can you? We want the best for every player. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also, the number 9 shirt, my God, there is a huge responsibility that comes with that at Newcastle United. You know, he, more than anyone, is aware of that pressure. You know, he's had it for a year, but I think we have given him the benefit of the doubt, and Steve Bruce has always defended him in the press, even up till now. Like, even after the Blackburn game, you know, he's never said a bad word about him. He's always shown that he has faith in him. And I don't think Steve Bruce is just saying that to the press, you know, to try and be, I think he genuinely means it. He genuinely believes in him. But like you said, right now, to get additions that hit the ground running, it's either going to go one way or the other. It's going to be a wake-up call for Joelinton. He's going to open his eyes and observe every single detail of what he needs to improve on and how he can also reach that level and perform as we've expected him to do. Or, you know what? He's young, and it would be discouraging for new signings to come on, strikers to come on board, do the job you're meant to be doing, and you mentally take a back seat because you're sort of like, well, I've tried this for a year. I can't do this. It's not working. I don't fit into this. And then he might detach himself, you know, from the club. And then worst case scenario, we sell him on. But I think you're right with the fee. We're never going to get close to what we paid for him.
No chance.
And that is sort of, if I'm putting my business hat on, I'm thinking, oh, what a terrible investment. £40 million.
Can I just mention as well, Eisha, though, his body language just doesn't seem right. It just seems like he doesn't want to be here, because he's obviously reading the social media comments. He's obviously looking at Twitter. He's obviously looking at Instagram and the Facebook posts, etc. You want the lads to do well, but he's obviously looking too much at the comments. And he's obviously, you look at his style of play. I just don't think we suit what he wants, if you know what I mean. You look at the stat already. We've just signed, right? Jamal Lewis settled in very nicely. We've signed Callum Wilson. First game, he scores. Jeff Hendrick, first game, he scores. Ryan Fraser, first game, he scores. Joelinton, like, they're already off the mark already after one game.
Jamal Lewis,
yeah, like Gillespie doing really well. Like, I understand Jamal Lewis at left back, he's not expected to score goals. He might score the odd 1 or 2 in his Newcastle career, hope so. But you look at Joelinton, there's just no confidence there, is it? Like, he got a goal against Tottenham and you think, yeah, you might kick on. And then you've seen it again for Sheffield United last season, he might kick on. Just doesn't do it.
No, I agree. And I'd have to be really positive and optimistic to think that it would go the positive way for him. He would be inspired. It would give him that charge and determination to just sort of learn and get to that level. But I don't see that happening. You're right about his body language. And, we're all human. It doesn't feel good if you've been trying to do a job for a year with the number 9 shirt, with that huge freaking spotlight on you, the Newcastle United number 9 shirt, and you can't deliver. People come along and they can get the job done. It's discouraging. And
thing is, you're right what you're saying though about what Steve Bruce was saying about Joelinton. Yes, he's got to say the right things. He's got to big him up. He's got to G him up, because at the end of the day, he's the club's number 9. He's going to be the focal point. He's going to be, the pressure on a Saturday afternoon or midweek kickoff. He's the record signing. We've not paid like 9 million quid or something for him. We've paid 40 million quid. So the board have obviously gambled. Whether you could argue we paid 40 million quid, that's another thing because of Saul Perez. But yeah, you're right. Like he needs to. We want him to be positive. We want him to get on the score sheet for the new season. We want him to get a run going. Where whether he starts against Brighton or whether he starts against Morecambe, it doesn't matter. Like we want him to get on the score sheet so it can help the other lads out as well. We need more goals into a game, and we need more from Joelinton now. Like I can understand the first season, like you can get off of it. Like it's tough. But the second season, you should have learned from the previous season going forward. But right now, it's not quite working for him. But we're hoping, fingers crossed, in the coming weeks with what happened this week against Blackburn, you can learn from that. I think as a footballer, you've got to learn from your game. Even if you've played well, there's always learning points. Even in the West Ham game, I was telling you, like, we beat them 2-0. But if you're a manager like Steve Bruce, you're looking at that and you're thinking, well, actually, we can learn to score more goals. We can learn to be, more defensively aware of what's going on, trying to stop West Ham from hitting the crossbar, because playing up against different sides. But for Joelinton, he's got to realise we're not going to play Blackburn every week. And there was a chance for him to score and he didn't do it. So fingers crossed that we'll see more from him in the coming weeks, because we do want him to justify his price tag. But right now, as you say, you say about your business head, we're not going to get that money back. There's no way in hell. So
yeah, no, I totally agree. I think initially I sort of gave him the benefit of the doubt in terms of his position. I thought, wait, at Hoffenheim he was playing on the left, but we played him on the left. He still hasn't been able to deliver. So it is, I don't know. It's just
I am of the same thinking. Like I was saying, okay, if it's not going to work from up front, maybe play Callum Wilson. If you're going to play the 4-2-3-1 formation, have Callum Wilson up front, have Joelinton on the left, and maybe ASM on the right, and see what that does, and maybe get him a bit more on the ball. But you're looking at Joelinton right now. He's just not quite pulling his weight, is he? And with a body language problem, he needs to get over that very, very quickly at this football club, because the minute the fans get back, because you think about it, when there's been no fans, Joelinton now should be looking at that as an advantage in a sense that there's no fans, let's bang in some goals and prove the fans I can do it. Because we can understand with a 52,000 crowd and 3,000-4,000 crowd down at different away grounds, that there's going to be pressure. Of course there is. But when there was no crowd, he should have been banging in the goals, and he hasn't done. So he doesn't realise if he's still got a confidence of low where he is, if he doesn't do it now and the fans come back, the pressure is going to be eating at him very, very quickly, to the point where he's probably going to be forced out of the football club.
No, you're absolutely right, actually, with the fans aspect. I'm sure it was a weight off his shoulders when he heard that it's behind closed doors. He probably thought, you know what, let me just graft away in silence without, the huge atmosphere that comes with St. James's Park. And again, he would be reading social media posts. He's not gonna, you can't switch off from that. You just can't. Headline after headline over the past year. He didn't ask for such a huge price tag to be attached to him. That's something I have to say. It's not fair in that aspect. He didn't ask, he wasn't going to say no for £40 million, but at the same time, he essentially signed a contract and is trying to do what he can do. He's not living up to the expectations, and he's facing the brunt of that. I would be really surprised if he starts this weekend. I hope the best for him this season, but in my opinion, his future looks bleak. And if he struggles for game time now, that mental aspect of it will not improve. We'll see it in his body language, like we've already observed so far. And that is about it. So Sharkey, thank you so much for joining me. As I've mentioned, Sharkey's channel is the Toon Army TV channel, and he creates so much Newcastle content. Sharkey, could you just tell the viewers what to expect as a subscriber?
Yes, so I run the YouTube channel Toon Army TV, so head over and subscribe if you're new. As Eisha said, I do a lot of Newcastle United content, also I try to when I'm not busy. I do match previews, so I build up to a game, just like we have done there, talking all things Brighton, and I like to get interactive in the comments and get your guys' opinions on score predictions, the team lineup, etc. I do match reviews, I talk about, the game, get me thoughts and opinions out there, but also your opinions are important as well. I do a lot of match day vlogs from Newcastle, but at this moment in time, it's not safe to do so. But I will be getting back to St James's Park, I promise you, and I will be doing away days. What else do I do? Non-league games as well, just promoting out non-league in the area, as it's so important in times like these. What else do I do? Like just a lot of Newcastle news and trying to keep up to date where I can. And I do a bit of Premier League as well. So, but yeah, the majority of the channel is Newcastle related. But yeah, like come and head over, but also subscribe to this wonderful channel and Eisha, a very good job. So yeah.
Thanks very much for leaving me a plug as well. I'm going to leave all the links for Toon Army TV below. So you guys make sure you give them a follow on every single handle. That's Twitter, Instagram, the channel. I'm going to put it all below. And remember to subscribe to my channel as well if you haven't already, for these weekly Newcastle updates and much more in between too. I'm going to be bringing out loads of fun stuff. Thanks again, Sharkey, for joining me.
Thanks very much.
And thanks, guys, for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.